Hi, welcome to Service Innovation Class 11, Share and Sell. First of all, what did we do last week? We looked at getting feedback from customers and testing customers' experience. We had a look at how not to treat and blame customers for misunderstanding touch points. And we developed some touch points, and we looked at the new Swiss Pass card. Today's objectives: understand modularity in services, pricing services, selling services, and creating structures to deliver and sell services. This is to help you learn to package services and sell them innovatively. If you don't do that, there's no point in creating the new services. A couple of videos I'd like you to have a look at. Good examples in both cases. Modularity is as simple as this graphic I've got. Got a standardized back end and a flexible front end, so you can deliver to your customers what they actually want and what they actually value, not what you think they need. There's a little bit more detail. It's from Chaseborough. Very, very simple, which is why I've used the colours here to try and explain how both sides fit together. Allows you to have a pick and mix approach to customization, yet standardized. Thinking about how to deliver to them flexibly. Within each flexible front end, we can break it down further and we can standardize it there, which makes it easier for us to put the building blocks together. Important to have standardized building blocks here. The back end is standardized. We want to do reporting, we want to do billing, we want to do quoting in the same way. So it helps us. It helps us be more efficient. Modularity here, it also helps us to be close to our customers, so we can actually deliver things locally to them, and we can work out what we need to have locally and what we need to have further away. And this helps us with making the business more profitable too. Pricing for services is probably the hardest thing you could ever do, and you'll always get it wrong. Everything must create a contribution to the business. Cost plus, we decide on the margin, they decide on the value. Current value, we think we're getting it about right, but really once we begin to understand the value, often we find that the price lags behind that. And what we're trying to do is to understand prices and margins, services offered by the customer, so we can actually prove a price on an appropriate value base. Pricing, I said, will be the hardest thing you ever do. You always get it wrong. I've said 50% data, 50% know-how, 50% luck, and I do mean that. Do your homework, then it's easier. This is a way of getting our homework done. Cost base, scope, cost, price, customers' value. They decide on the value. It's easy to apply, but can create low value for customers. And you can be told that you're expensive, but mostly you're expensive because you've included too much scope. Market base is similar. There's a market benchmark. Here, the others in the market determine our pricing. Often we're kind of stuck with it, but it's probably better than cost plus. It's good to know where the cost is, but I want to know where the market rate is. Disadvantage here again, value is really not considered until the end. Value base starts with customers, identifies the value they're creating, and then we work out how much money we can actually charge for it. That gives us a cost, and then that leads to a scope. And then we find out whether the cost is actually worth it. Much more active way of actually pricing. Remember when you price that you can structure the price based on the different revenue streams, whether it's fixed, variable, performance, bonuses, or out of scope items. Think about this area and be very creative in here. And understand what your customers value when it comes to the revenue streams and how you take that cash from them. This can be really considered part of your value proposition, how we extract the cash, because that may be something which is terribly important for either the pains or the gains of the customer. Cost drivers. Understand how your costs are built up. It's very important to understand your cost build up and your revenue streams to see how they match. Costs are fixed. Which ones are variable? Not all costs are controllable, and some of them are best guess as well. difference between these is really whether we make money. We get the project gross margin. That tells us how good we were. We might have some underutilization, which then leads to the operational gross margin. We take the SG&A away from it. We get the EBIT margin. We take depreciation, amortization off, and we get the EBIT margin at the bottom. Understand the accounting rules and the differences between the cost structure and the revenue. Really, really important when you come to pricing. And understand the difference between cash flows as well. Also very, very important. Difference really between cost and revenue is risk. Understand how that works. Can't say that strongly enough, but it's really important. When you build this up, think about the modules and think about what your customer could deliver and what you could deliver and what you could do with them and how you could do it for them. Really different models here. And remember that customers might want to change based on circumstances. What happens in day 1 may not be the same as that happens in day 20. Selling services. There's a case here looking at selling services, cars, and trying to put the cars together with services. Now, how do we put that together? Selling services, complex processes. You must understand your customers. We must understand who's active around them, the value propositions. We understand how they create value and their willingness to pay. Once we know that, we can really put it together. Remember that selling services is much more about relational selling and consultative selling. We're trying to help them. We're trying to become an advisor to them rather than trying to push a box to them. And this is a mistake that we often make, is we try to standardize it too much and we push boxes. Also remember that selling services, many of the product sales routes will be using agents. Now, how could we use our agents to actually create service value for us? Watch these 2 videos, quite different on selling services, but quite insightful. Now there's an example here of selling services. This comes back to 2 cars that you're buying, so I'm creating a product service system. And I want you to think about how you can create and sell the vehicle and the services and what's needed around it. So we understand the value proposition, the customers, the touch points. Now I want you to create this 4-blocker to really then come up with a revenue and price model for it. Do the same for the personal buyer as well as the commercial buyer. Okay, selling services. Thanks very much. You've seen modularity, you've discussed some pricing in services, and you've seen it's one of the hardest things you can do, most often getting it wrong. You've created some sales concepts, which is cool, and you've worked on a system to deliver and sell services. So now you've learned how to package and sell and price the services and sell them innovatively. Thanks very much.